up survives that whole 20-year growing up period with an intact family. And I know this has happened in my own life, and it has a certain effect on the next generation. So, I think, and it's deleterious for society in general to have this happening. So I see a connection between that and feminism.
Yeah.
So we want to respect women. We want strong women. And many of the things that she said, I would support 100%.
Oh, okay.
But I think the attempt to completely overturn the gender roles that have been established for 1,000 years or more.
But established by what standard? And she touched on the fact that many cultures, they don't have gender in their language. Like other cultures have a more equal-based society where women are making equal decisions to men. So I guess we're actually taking that view here. Like according to what standard? Is it a religious standard that you're talking about personally? That is that helping you define?
It's many different.
Yeah.
These sources are sort of all linked, like the churches and the societies and the kings and the hierarchies and so on. It's all, we've been going as a society for 1,000 years now in the Anglo world, and all of a sudden, these things we're saying, well, let's just all of a sudden. Let's make like the Iroquois and have no gender. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you can just take an enormous institution and history and culture and traditions and just upend it at the snap of a finger. We recognize that's happening, but there's all kinds of interlinked things. Like one of the rallying cries of feminists is equal pay. And I just think equal pay...
I'm glad, sorry to interrupt, but I'm glad you brought that up, because this was one of the conversations you and I had. Do you remember that? We were sitting out by the hot tub, and I want you to give that analogy again, because I'll speak to it when you're done. But do you remember the example you gave me?
Well, I certainly remember the defining moment in my life where I started to think about this was finding some old newspapers in a renovation job from it was newspapers from the 20s, I guess, or 1910s, or in that area. And
when you were a teenager?
No, well, shut up. Dean? Casting aspersions upon my ancientity is not allowed.
Okay.
Anyway, the newspapers, there was advertisements. I looked at the classifieds, and so there was maybe a carpenter or a laborer or something like that, and he was being offered $35 a week, and there was domestics at being offered $7 a week. Well, you do the math. The worker, male worker, could get together with the domestic, and together if they wanted to get married, they would have an income of $42. I guess in today's terms, we should make that per hour instead of per week. But it's all relative, these things. So don't get thrown off by the numbers. But when they wanted to have children, they would be able to. The woman would be able to quit, and the family would still be earning $35 instead of $42, which is a bit less, but it's not drastically less. Now you have families where it's completely upsetting because the wages, they may not be totally equal, but they're much more equal, so that it almost requires that both people continue to work, which takes time, that nurturing time away from the children, no matter how much the feminists want to declare that, we've got child care and we've got kindergarten, all-day kindergarten now, and various other social supports. but it's not family. And once the child is put in care of government institutions, then you have, I think you lose the independence of mother and family as the direction giver for the children. I mean, they may not be right. They may think anything, but at least they're giving a direction and values to the children that are not the values of governments and politically correct things.
Sorry to interrupt, but okay, we're getting back to your original thing was equal pay. That's what.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but the analogy that's not what they're complaining about. They're not complaining about like somebody doing a different job and getting paid less than a man doing a different job and getting paid. Equal pay is for if I'm going to go and lay bricks for a living,
I recognize
and I'm
that.
getting $15 an hour. Let's say $15 an hour. Aaron should get $15 an hour for doing the same job. Aaron, sorry, is my wife, and I think and I thought it at the time, but that analogy doesn't really address the not to put you on the spot, but it doesn't really address the idea and the concept of what I understand them to be asking for when they say we deserve equal pay. I think it boils down to very simply equal pay for the same job. If I'm doing a job,
within the
and I think you were drawing upon the fact that yes, a man in the 1920s was making say $35 a week being a carpenter, and a woman doing a housekeeping job would maybe get less money. Well,
actually, I wish I could remember whether it was a carpenter or just general labor, because I think there's no reason why a domestic who does general labor and very hard work, and especially in those days with no washing machine, there's no reason why she shouldn't get equal pay to a guy doing, just at the end of a wheelbarrow or something like that. Yeah, he's outside in the rain, but she's on her knees scrubbing the floor.
So you're talking about basic labor, not skilled labor.
Well, I must say I have to go back and check and find an old newspaper if I still got it. But and it is a good point that a carpenter would be at a higher level and not equivalent at all to a domestic. So but at the same time, I think. I think we can generalize it to say that roughly, the genders have become much closer together in terms of their pay, except at the highest levels of management. So that,
Why is that?
And that's a fair point, but I don't even necessarily think that that's what we should be shooting for as a society. So the feminists say, we want equal pay for equal work. We don't want the glass ceiling, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. But what I want for society is the greatest good for the greatest number. And I don't think that what the feminists want is the greatest good for the greatest number. In theory, they do. But the way it's working out, when you consider the impact on the family and the children, and frankly, I think that the bringing up of the next generation trumps, sorry to use the term, all other considerations. The children are the raison d'etre for the two people to get together in the first place.
Now you're going back to, and what I've noticed, and you're going back to the children and what's happening to that. And again, this is, if I'm not mistaken, again, you're putting, it seems like, the female in the role of raising children.
Sure.
And it comes down to that.
Sure. Right? I mean,
what was spoken to in the episode is that, there's things that men can do. Like, how do you feel about stay-at-home men, like, or stay-at-home fathers, I should say?
Well,
sorry.
I just stumbled on a study on Facebook today that somebody posted that the divorce rates are higher when men become basically feminized and start doing all kinds of
But
housework.
are they really? Like, why? Why,
Well,
when you were talking about, when you were using, like, I'm not even fully understanding what a feminist is yet. And this is why I guess I'm doing this, is to, broaden my understanding of things. And the Pioneers are I've always loved the show. But even when you were using the term domestic, I didn't like it.
I know. It's become a
It's
politically
vulgar.
it's a politically incorrect term.
Yeah.
We still have domestics.
Mhm.
We still have nannies. We still have caregivers. But we come up with all kinds of politically correct terms. My wife is a personal service worker.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it's a very necessary function in an old age home. But I kind of think that society has gotten a little bit too far into these politically correct terms. We better go back to using honest, direct terms that just say exactly what it is.
All right.
A sewage plant is not a pollution control center. It's a sewage plant. So just call it that. And a hospital is not a what do they call them? Health care centers? That's rubbish. A hospital is a hospital. We all know what happens in a hospital.
So we're back to language again.
We're back to language. So, as to what a feminist is. Well, I have some conflicts within my own mind on this because I have a daughter, and I don't want that daughter to be a domestic or a weak person. I want her to be a strong, feminine person who's going to be both feminine and a capable human being.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't mind if she wants to step out, get married, stay home, whatever. I'll be quite content. If that's what her choice is. And I think there's an awful lot of pressure on women nowadays to go out and slay the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been women all through the ages. I know I've listened to podcasts on and TVO things on fantastic women that have done incredible things. Oh, there was the first woman, the first computers were practically made by a woman. I can't remember her name, but she worked in the 1800s. She and another male.
And what was she paid to compared to the male?
I don't think she was paid anything. She just, most of the work, I think she was a society woman. I'm not sure. I can't remember the details exactly, but she didn't need to work. She didn't need to get paid. So, and I don't know about the fellow whether he got paid.
I understand. Okay.
Right. These are mucky mucks to begin with. I think anyway. But so women have emerged out of the blue from the great mass of society. There's been certain women that have just been incredible women. But now there's pressure on every woman to be incredible. And I suppose that has a benefit to our economy. But
is that what they're complaining about, or is it just pressure to be equal? Like, I mean, is there...
Well, the feminists want to be equal.
Mm-hmm.
And they also want to do terrific things, slay the dragon or whatever. And they want to have every single opportunity open to men. And I don't know how completely society can change, but and I think part of my resistance comes from all of the other things that get associated with this whole thing. So in other words, this cannot be seen in separation from all of the other things: immigration, refugees, racism, Islamophobia.
Yeah, she touched on all that, yeah.
But that's right. And so it's all of one group. So, and certainly I went to the protest here in Hamilton where there was some concerned citizens that were concerned about this M103. That's not a bill, it's some other kind of motion and the idea was that Islamophobia was identified by name instead of just calling it in general, discrimination or something. So Islamophobia is now a thing. So to my mind, that means if I'm worried about Islam and Sharia law, then I must be an Islamophobe. And, well, gee, by the way, you must be a bigot and a racist too.
So
that shuts down the discussion.
So you're a femophobe.
I'm.
Is that the word, femophobe?
I suppose it could be. I'm trying to avoid.
So you touched on something earlier there, and you said that you didn't understand, you didn't see where it was going in that. So why not step back and just kind of let things happen? Like, I mean, it's too bad we didn't. In a way, we could have had somebody that was very opinionated and spoken on the feminist side, but I was worried about arguments, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for you to explain to me what a feminist was and what they wanted.
Yeah, and our listeners will have the original recording by the Bioneers to give the feminist perspective.
Yeah, it's been presented here,
I'm just trying my best to
equal time
give, and I don't think I'm doing a very good job because
you're doing fine.
I'm not totally against the idea that women can grow up to be, or girls can grow up to be capable, interesting, involved women, or they can grow up to be family oriented and just interested in raising children. But the bottom line for me is the children. I really couldn't care less about men or women as long as the children are looked after.
Okay, that's a great point. And I'm looking at the time. We're going to end it, I think, there. And Bob, thanks so much, okay, for being a part of this. And
terrific.
This is you're down here in my basement, and we're trying to figure out this podcast and what we're going to do. We're definitely going to have you back. I have a whole catalog of topics. You're a very well-spoken guy, and I appreciate you coming over and talking about this. I kind of set you up a bit for the first one because you're a lot of fun.
You're always forgiven.
Okay. And over the next couple weeks, we'll do some more stuff. We'll work out some technical issues that we've been having tonight. But thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and thanks for listening, if you are. And really, all I have to say is that, I don't know, to each their own, and if, I'm all about equality. I hope, that happens for everybody. But if it doesn't, I understand why people feel it's not. I kind of understand sort of in a way where you're coming from, Bob, and I really appreciate the fact that your main concern is the family unit and the children. So I think we'll just leave it at that. So that was good to talk about, and now we've got something to think about. All right, all the best.
Okay, take care.